Again, and I would like to welcome you all to today's travel edition of the Lunch Club. We'll be taking a trip to Bolivia. Thank you all so much for coming on, and the floor is yours, Lou. Look forward to today's session.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I got a little carried away with the trivia again today, so we'll have to end the videos probably a little early because I've got so many questions. Bolivia is certainly a really interesting country. One of the trivia questions I won't ask is that in the Americas, it has the highest population of what? Can anybody answer that? And it's one of the most unique features about Bolivia. So amongst the Americas, North and South America, Bolivia has the highest percentage of population of what? And it's a demographic, a type of people.
Poor people.
What are they?
Poor people.
Oh, that may be true.
That's
That
pretty
may be
close.
true, Tom. But that's not what I was thinking of.
Very welcome use.
Demographics.
It actually has one of the highest disparities of wealth. That was in the trivia, which I won't ask, of any country on earth. So maybe you're right, Tom. But that's not the question I was thinking of. It's the highest concentration of Native Americans in the world.
Indigenous
I
people.
was thinking that. I was thinking American
Yeah,
Indians.
indigenous people, right?
Yeah.
62% of the entire population, I think, are indigenous population. So that's pretty remarkable. All right, folks, let me share the screen here and get started where we always do. Oh, Alex looks like there we go. Thank you so much.
You're able to start it and stop mine if you want, just to let you know. And also, let's just make sure our TVs and cell phones are silent, so that way we all can understand and immerse ourselves as best as we can. Thanks so much.
Okay, well, just like always, we'll start out at Dackel's office there on downtown DC. We'll walk over to Union Station, and we'll then catch an Uber or go on the Silver Line, excuse me, over to Dulles Airport. Easy to find on the map because it's just so big. So we go over to Dulles Airport there. All right, anybody know which direction we fly if we're going to go to Bolivia? And take off. Well, just like probably every site in South America, we're going to go probably have to connect in Miami. Some of the low-cost airlines nowadays are serving South America. I know Spirit goes to South America now. I couldn't believe it. All the destinations that Spirit goes to. And you wouldn't believe some of the fares that Spirit offers international now even. All right, so now we're going to go land in Miami. We take off. We're going to go to Bolivia. Well, there it is. Wow, it's a big country, folks. Couple things to point out. This isn't in the trivia. I think 40% they said of all animal species live in Bolivia. Yeah, not the numbers, but the types of species. And that's because of the range of geography. Look at this. It spans the Amazon rainforest all the way up to some of the highest mountains in the Americas down here. So it really has a huge span. But one thing it doesn't have, you'll note, is it doesn't have a coastline. And that's because Bolivia lost a war with Chile back in the day, I think in the late 1800s. And Chile took Bolivia's coastline. So Bolivia is still not very happy about that, as you can imagine. All right, so before I get into any more history on my own here, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to start up a video about Bolivia's history. So just give me a second.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, just a moment.
Hello.
Oops. Hold on. Just a moment. Okay, here we go.
And welcome to Mr. This is South America, and here is Bolivia. Now, let's flip through its history, shall we? The earliest inhabitants of Bolivia settled high up on the Altiplano Plateau, which became the site for the civilization of Tiwanaku. Tiwanakans were masterful architects, agriculturalists, and builders. Here we see the Gateway of the Sun. Unfortunately, they also practiced human sacrifice, where people were executed on top a structure called an akapana, and then ritually dismembered for the public to see. No one's certain why Tiwanaku collapsed, but it did, and there was thus no one to stop the Inca Empire's conquest of much of Bolivia, which began in the 1400s under the great leader Pachacuti. Bolivians at this time spoke Aymara, but the Inca imposed Quechua administrators over them. Both these languages are still widely spoken in Bolivia today, along with Spanish. That's right, the conquistadors arrived here in the 1500s and promptly assumed command after defeating the Inca. The Amerindians of Bolivia were forced to work in silver mines like Potosi and Cochabamba, stripping the lustrous metal from the bowels of mountains like this. Of course the Indians rebelled, most famously in the late 18th century, when many natives of Bolivia joined the rebellion of Peruvian Tupac Amaru, a heroic and hard-fought effort, but unsuccessful. Still, Spain's grip of its colonies was weakening, faltering fatally in the early 1800s after Napoleon's conquest of Spain, which emboldened its colonies to revolt. You could say the Spanish Empire was blown apart by Bonaparte. Bolivian cities were among the first to rebel, and soon the Americas were ablaze with revolutionary fervor, following the lead of men like Simón Bolívar, from whom Bolivia derives its name, Bolivia, which became an independent nation in 1825. Now, over the centuries, Bolivia had been mined so extensively that, by this time, most mines were depleted, and thus Bolivia, whose economy had been grounded in them, suffered greatly. Enter Marshal Andrés de Santa Cruz, who, as president, pushed policies and reforms to ameliorate the country's ills, but got a bit greedy in wanting to rule Peru too, which he did for a while, but this stoked up resentment, and Bolivia became enmeshed in manifold brawls with its neighbors, ultimately losing more than half its land, including the bit that joined it to the sea, after losing a war with Chile, a country that definitely needed more coastline. Even more humiliating was Bolivia's defeat by Paraguay in the Chaco War. Social and political chaos escalated. This president, for instance, was killed by an angry crowd who stormed his palace and hanged his body from a lamp post. Bolivia's shaky, uncertain political climate did not change. Junta, then this guy, more junta, then more unstable regimes, racking their brains how to grow the economy while cutting a few tin mine jobs, while not increasing wages, while not angering labor unions, which was impossible. Bolivia's various conundrums couldn't be solved even when civilians regained government leadership in the 1980s. Protests and general societal agitation persisted. Populist Evo Morales has proved a radical and energetic leader, and the economy has been growing, as has tourism. And there's a lot to see here. What does the future hold for Bolivia? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye.
Oh, great. Any thoughts or comments about that video?
Until the president Evo doesn't takes $1 a year because he knows his people are so poor he refuses to take a salary from the government, I'm told.
Yeah, I've got a whole video to play on Evo Morales. Yeah, it's quite a country, isn't it? One of the cities they said was the richest city in the world at the time. It produced more than half of the silver in the world today out of one single city. And that mine was depleted. Unfortunately, it was heavily mined by the Spanish, so they really, really raided the country of its minerals. But Bolivia has a lot of things besides that I had learned about. I went there for my job at World Vision way back in 2007. And the first thing that struck me, you'll see in the video, is just how remarkably colorful the country is. It just like jumped off the page. And it's one of my favorite countries in the whole world because of that. So let me jump into what things to do in Bolivia today, and you'll get an idea of some of the colorfulness of it. I'm going to cue it up.
Bolivia may not be the most popular tourist destination in South America, but it is definitely worth visiting. With the right guide, this country has all it takes.
So look at that color, right? That is not touched up, folks. That's really what it looks like. The bluest of blue, the whitest of white, the people's garments and stuff. It just jumps off the page. It's really amazing.
To be your best travel destination yet. Luckily, this video will discuss the top places to visit during your stay in Bolivia. Number 1. La Paz. As the administrative capital of Bolivia, La Paz is among the most popular cities here and one of the first places to visit, resting at an elevation of over 3,600 meters above sea level. This city is known as the highest administrative capital in the world. It is also the third most populated city in the country, so you should expect to walk through big crowds here. However, you can rest assured of a breathtaking experience touring this city, as there are loads of activities and attractions to keep you occupied throughout your stay. Of course, there are many places to visit in La Paz, but the city's highlight surely includes the colorful markets. Once you've settled in here, your attention will surely be drawn to the Witch Market, which is arguably the most popular of the numerous markets in this part. Also known as El Mercado de las Brujas, this market is at Cerro Cumbre, and it has since gained recognition as one of the main tourist attractions in La Paz. Indeed, the market is called the Witch Market because of the dominant figures of local witch doctors displaying their potions, herbs, dried frogs, and armadillos here. However, you will be assured of a fun-filled day exploring different corners of this market and watching the trades go on. You can also buy lots of other goods here, especially souvenirs, with which to remember this exciting experience. While in the capital city, you may also want to head down to El Alto's multifunctional center to catch a couple or more Cholita wrestling bouts. Cholita wrestling is a theatrical display of fighting skills by flamboyantly costumed women, and it is a very popular event in Bolivia. You certainly do not want to miss out on this exciting activity that brings locals and tourists together for an alternative type of entertainment. Yet another popular activity to try in La Paz is the Mi Teleférico, which is the urban cable car transit system in this part of the country. Of course, this system ranks high among the most developed cable car systems in the world, and La Paz is one of the few places you can find it in South America. So why not take the opportunity to enjoy this fun activity while moving from one place to another and exploring different locations here in the capital city? Number 2. Potosi. Your next destination in Bolivia should be the Southern Highlands, where the mining city of Potosi awaits you. This city is one of the highest in the world, standing at an elevation of over 4,000 meters on a cold and barren plateau just underneath the Potosi Mountain. It is one of the oldest cities in Bolivia, and as such, it has become pretty famous within the country and beyond. However, the majority of its fame is believed to be tied to the fabled Potosi Mountain, or the Cerro Rico, as it is also referred to. The city is arguably the most popular in the colonial era due to the silver mining activities in and around the Potosi Mountain. Today, it is no longer a prominent silver mining location, but it remains important for the well-preserved colonial architecture and unusual geographic settings. However, these mining sites are still active and worth visiting, attracting thousands of tourists from far and wide. Your tour of the city will surely be more exciting than you imagine, and you may want to especially check out the underground mines. The conditions here may not be entirely safe to explore alone, but there are tour guides available to help show you around the mining center while ensuring you adhere to safety precautions. Indeed, the Potosi Mountain is globally important, and it has been adopted as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Other significant landmarks and structures to check out in this city include the National Mint of Bolivia, the Church of San Lorenzo de Carangas, and the Cathedral of Potosi, among others. Number 3. Tupiza. Tupiza is a small city in southern Bolivia, and it is one of the most popular in this part. Plus, it is most famous for its unique desert landscapes and red rock formations, also referred to as the Wild Badlands. This city sees thousands of visitors yearly, but it often doesn't get as much attention as it deserves. However, the tourists that find their way here often have many positive reviews about their fantastic desert experiences. First, this city boasts one of South America's most dramatic desert landscapes, with red rock canyons and cactus fields on the horizon, adding to its appeal. You are sure to enjoy the extraordinary scenes in these parts, as there are spectacular landscapes to the north and south of this small town. Of course, you can explore some of these dramatic sceneries on your own, but you would have a better chance of capturing the best of this excursion on a guided tour, which you can book at multiple places in the city. If you are an adventurer and reckon yourself fit enough for a trekking expedition, you can join a hiking party to explore some of the outstanding trails here in Tupiza. Perhaps you can go for the trails leading up to the Cerro Corazón de Jesus and the Cerro La Cruz, as they are the most popular treks for tourists looking to get a hilltop view of this amazing city. Number 4. Sucre. Sucre is the constitutional capital of Bolivia, making it one of the most popular cities in the country and a must-visit tourist destination anytime you are in South America. It is also the 6th most populated city in the country, so you should expect to witness more crowds in this part. However, this all adds to the fun experience, and millions of tourists often head here to have a good time every year. With whitewashed colonial buildings and bell towers, Sucre is known as the most beautiful city in Bolivia. In fact, UNESCO inscribed Sucre on its World Heritage List in 1991. Because the city's well-preserved architecture illustrates the blending of local traditions with European styles. Sucre features many noteworthy tourist attractions, including the Casa de la Libertad, where Bolivia's Declaration of Independence was signed. Here you will find several historical galleries on display, and you can get an insight into the country's rich history before and after independence. Universidad Mayor de San Francisco Javier, which is the second oldest university in the Americas, is another historic center to visit in Sucre, along with a dozen other museums and religious centers that will definitely catch your interest. Indeed, you can rest assured of a good time exploring this historic city. Number 5. Bolivian Amazon. If you have dreamed of visiting the famous South American Amazon rainforest, then your trip to Bolivia presents you with the perfect opportunity to experience this natural wonder firsthand. Although not the biggest, Bolivia owns a significant part of the Amazon rainforest, covering over 40% of the nation's territory, so you are sure to get your fill of the rainforest from here. As the largest region in Bolivia, the Bolivian Amazon is home to hundreds of plants and wildlife, so get ready to get your mind blown here. There are also about 29 indigenous people in this region, so you will likely be interacting with some locals during your tour of this region. Moreover, the Bolivian Amazon rainforest is unique for several reasons, including the fact that you can explore it by trekking or by boat. You can also enjoy this experience at a significantly cheaper rate compared to other countries like Brazil or Peru. By the way, if you want to learn how to save money on airfares, then click the link in the description below. This guide teaches you how to always get the cheapest flights. Number 6. Lake Titicaca. Another exciting destination to include in your list of places to visit in Bolivia is Lake Titicaca, which is one of South America's largest freshwater lakes. It is also one of the oldest lakes in the world, believed to be millions of years old. At an elevation of over 3,800 meters above sea level, Lake Titicaca is the outright highest navigable lake in the world. Plus, although it is situated in the Andes Mountains region, this lake surprisingly never freezes out. However, you may want to discard any thought of swimming in it, as the water is often very cold. Also, since it's located on the border of Bolivia and Peru, you can explore the lake from either of these countries. But you can rest assured of an experience to remember exploring this famous lake from the Bolivian territory. Known as the birthplace of the Incas, the region around the lake features several trails, one of which leads to Isla del Sol. This island is located on the outskirts of the Bolivian territory, and it is known for ancient Inca sites like the ruined palace of Pilcocaina. It also houses Roca Sagrada, which is the rock where the first Incas were born. The locals here are peaceful and very receptive, so you can mingle freely while taking in these breathtaking scenes. You can also get a few of the incredible hand-woven sweaters, hats, and jewelry sold by local traders in these parts. Number 7. Tiwanaku. Just a few kilometers away from Lake Titicaca lies the ancient ruined city of Tiwanaku, and it is another tourist destination you don't want to miss in western Bolivia. It is one of South America's largest pre-Columbian archaeological sites, with the surface remains covering over 4 square kilometers. Also, this ruined city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recording many tourists each year. Here at the Tiwanaku ruins, you will be greeted by the remains of many outstanding structures like the Acapana pyramids. You'll also find a semi-subterranean temple with images of human heads carved into the walls. And other notable structures in this ruined city include the huge Gate of the Sun Arch and the nearby Kalisasaya Temple. Of course, the ruins of Tiwanaku are protected, but you can join guided tours to explore this ancient city anytime you come around. Number 8. Samaipata. Samaipata is a small town in the eastern part of the Andes region of Bolivia, but it certainly is one to visit. It is an ancient town previously occupied by the Mohocayas and the Incas, with the latter naming it a provincial capital. The town is also a gateway to the Mboro National Park, which is famed for its cloud forest, waterfalls, and diverse bird species, so it usually entertains lots of visitors daily. For sure, you will also want to jump on this opportunity to explore the numerous attractions this town has to offer. The town is often a lovely sight to behold, with various small multicolored houses making it as colorful as possible. However, the pre-Columbian archaeological site of El Fuerte is the main attraction in this area. This over 2,000 years old UNESCO World Heritage Site is a beacon that attracts many history buffs from far and wide. And you will also find the local recipes of samaipata pretty delightful, so don't be surprised when you eventually stay in this town longer than you planned. Number 9. Valley of the Moon. Valle de la Luna, or Valley of the Moon as it translates, is a popular geological formation in the Pedro Domingo Murillo province of Bolivia, just 10 kilometers away from the capital city of La Paz. This valley is an erosion-stricken part of the tall clay mountains in the region. However, it is said that the valley was named by the legendary Neil Armstrong because it reminded him of scenes from the moon. While this may only be a rumor, it doesn't change the fact that the Valley of the Moon is a destination worth visiting. Indeed, the tall spires formed by the remnants of the mountains are as beautiful as you can imagine, and the trek through the valley is equally exciting. So no doubt, your memory of this sublime natural formation will not be short-lived. Number 10. Death Road. The Death Road, which is also known to locals as the Yungas Road, is a 60-kilometer cycle route linking the city of La Paz to the Yungas region of Bolivia. The narrow road is a dangerously steep slope without guardrails, and it got its name from the number of fatalities it recorded early in the 21st century. Thankfully, an alternative route from La Paz to Yungas has since been constructed, and the Death Road now remains a major tourist attraction in the area, recording over 25,000 thrill seekers per year. If you're up for it, do join one of the many tour agencies providing cycling tours on the Death Road. Number 11. Umboro National Park. If you are a fan of nature and wildlife, the Umboro National Park in central Bolivia should be among your top destinations to visit. It is located in the Andes foothills, just 40 kilometers away from Santa Cruz, and it has since been recognized as a top tourist attraction, with over 100,000 visitors making their way here each year. This large number of annual visitors comes as no surprise, since this reserve houses over 900 species of birds and 177 mammals, including the puma and rare spectacled bear. There's absolutely no doubt that you will find your visit here pretty interesting and memorable. Number 12. Eduardo Avaroa and Dan Fuana National Reserve. Truly, Umboro may be very popular, but it is not as popular as the Eduardo Avaroa and Dan Fuana National Reserve in Sur Lopez. This reserve is by far the country's most visited protected area, and you already know it's worth a place on your bucket list. The landscape here is breathtakingly beautiful, and you will most certainly be left amazed by the volcanoes and the wind-swept desert. But then, the hot springs and fantastic water bodies are often the most attractive sights here. Of course, the Eduardo Avaroa and Dan Fuana National Reserve boasts some exciting lakes, with the Laguna Colorado among the most prominent. This site is specifically interesting because of its red water color that is caused by red sediments and pigmentation of some algae in it. On the other hand, the Laguna Verde is also known for its green-colored water that results from the mineral suspensions that go into the water from its subsoil. While both lakes are spectacular sights to behold, they are not great places to swim, and you may want to stay out of the water when you get here. Number 13. Uyuni Salt Flats. No doubt, there are many notable attractions in Bolivia, but your visit to the country will be deemed incomplete without a tour of the Uyuni Salt Flats. Often considered as the legacy of a prehistoric lake that went dry and left behind a desert-like landscape of white salt, the Uyuni Salt Flat is the world's largest salt flat, covering an area of about 11,000 square kilometers. Perhaps this is why many tourists visiting Bolivia often have this as their destination at the top of their list of places to see. But of course, you too should come to pay a visit anytime you are around the region. To visit the Uyuni Salt Flats, you may want to camp in the small Uyuni town, just outside the salt flats. Here, you can find several accommodations, including the famous Salt Hotel. Surely, the Hotel de Sal Luna is not a regular hotel, and you can tell from the number of visitors lining up to camp here. The hotel is almost entirely made of salt extracted from the salt flat, and it offers luxurious accommodations to tourists visiting these parts. While in Uyuni, you may also want to check out the world's largest antique train cemetery. And yes, you heard that right. Uyuni is home to a train cemetery, where hundreds of trains and carriages that are no longer in use are abandoned. There have been mixed opinions about this clutter of rusted train skeletons, but many people often find it quite amusing. Perhaps you will also find the site exciting when you come. Click on our next video now for more travel tips and ideas for your visit to Bolivia.
All right. Well, that was great. Any thoughts about Bolivia, what you all saw? Well, we've seen places all over the world now.
Well, Lou, I was interested in, they have two capitals. One was the constitutional capital, and then the capital Sucre. So the constitutional, is that the one that make the laws, or how does that go?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that they say the administrative capital is La Paz, and that's where I think the leaders were all residing. But I really don't know. You know what was weird? They didn't even mention Santa Cruz. I mean, Santa Cruz is the second or one of the largest cities in the whole country, but it wasn't even mentioned.
Okay.
So,
The
yeah,
constitutional capital is where the Supreme Court is. And they do the other capital, what you were talking about, Lou, the administrative capital, like we have our departments of war or whatever. It's what administrative capital is, and the constitutional just does the Supreme Court.
Oh, thanks for that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So they have three capitals.
No, two.
Two. Well, they said Sucre was the capital.
Sucre
Well,
is one.
I'm looking at, yeah. Okay.
I think La Paz is the other one, I believe.
Yeah, it's La Paz, the other one.
La Paz is the,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say La Paz is the administrative capital of Bolivia, where Sucre was the first and the original capital.
Oh, okay. The first capital. Okay.
It looks like, and Dennis, you've got something to say.
I'm sorry, I was waiting for the little thing to come to unmute. I was confused like Brenda, but I had heard that it was another capital, and that's why I was trying to figure out and I'm like you, I'm confused why Santa Cruz wasn't mentioned at all, because everybody talks about that.
Yeah, well, maybe I gotta look up more videos or something. If we have time, I'll do that.
Well, you know what, Lou? A lot of these places, you can go back and we can look at some of the things that you really that you had to skip over when you get through your tour. I would love to hear some more about some of these places. And you're a good storyteller.
Yeah.
And what language did they speak?
Well, I thought it was fascinating that they spoke the original languages still. That's wonderful. The two indigenous languages as well as Spanish. Sounds like 3 languages.
Okay.
Yeah, do y'all remember the names of those 2 languages? One was the Incas brought over, and then the other one was before the Incas, and a lot of people still speak those languages there. That's beautiful. All right, Doris. Looks like Doris got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say how colorful and beautiful it looked in some of the places there.
Yeah, that's my testimony anyway. It was just such a colorful country and really remarkable. One thing I'll also mention, they warn you when you go into Bolivia, you mainly land in Santa Cruz or La Paz, and I landed in La Paz. The airport is in El Alto, which is the highest part of La Paz, and they warn you when you get off the plane that you might faint, and I actually did almost faint. I had to grab a chair and sit down immediately because you're almost at 14,000 feet, and when you just get off the plane, yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I literally almost fainted. I had to grab a chair and just sit down for a few minutes.
It does take your breath away when you're at high elevations. And because I get dizzy when I go to Seattle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Lou, were you a daredevil back in your day? You would ride this
No,
trail?
I never. No, I was there on business, so I didn't do any of the tourist stuff.
Okay.
I did go. I did go to the tin mining city of El Oro, which is where Evo Morales is from.
Okay.
But
I
let me
thought
jump.
that train cemetery, that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, let me jump into a couple more things because I do have the long trivia today. So here's a couple of things about what not to do in Bolivia. And Bolivia is not the safest country in the world, so it's best that you know what to do and what not to do. Here we go.
As the most elevated country in the continent, Bolivia offers travelers the most amazing panoramic views from its highest peaks. Definitely do that. But right now, we'll be taking a look at 10 things you should not do in Bolivia. Part 1. Know before you go. 1. Don't travel without toilet paper. It doesn't matter if you're in a decent hotel or a fine restaurant. You'll soon realize that toilet paper is a hot commodity in most cities. Also, make sure you don't flush the paper. It should always be tossed in the trash can instead. 2. Don't enter a bus without saying hello. The locals will always enter by greeting the rest of the passengers "Buenos dias" or "Buenas tardes." Brush up on your Spanish so you can recite the greetings as well. 3. Don't explore without a four-wheel drive. When you head outside of the major cities, it's best to travel in a four-wheel drive vehicle. You'll be faced with many subpar roads, including hazardous highways without shoulders, lack of fencing or barriers. 4. Don't carry large notes. We usually say this so that you don't become a target for crime. However, in Bolivia, the reason is that a lot of vendors don't carry change. So if a taxi ride costs you 10 BS and you hand the driver a 20, good luck getting any change back. 5. Don't get in a taxi with no signage. According to travel advisories, crimes that take place in taxi cabs are a huge problem in Bolivia. Many criminals drive around in cars that look like taxis, and once a tourist enters the vehicle, they're mugged of their money and belongings. Take a radio taxi and make sure the vehicle has clear signage with the business name, address and telephone number on the roof. Stay tuned for part 2 of things not to do in Bolivia.
So I'll certainly say the taxi cab thing's a big deal. That almost happened to me, not in Bolivia, but someplace else. You get in their car and you get mugged. So that's really common. Another thing is when you get off at the airport, don't ever tell anybody your name because they hold up signs and they'll write if they find out your name and they write your name on a sign, that's another way that these cab drivers will capture you. So you wait for someone who's going to pick you up to say your name. You never let anybody know your name first. That's a couple of tips that I've got. Any other thoughts on what we just saw? Okay, let's play part 2.
When in Bolivia, you should definitely take a long hike through the Cordillera Real, a terrifying bike ride down Death Road, and shop for souvenirs in La Paz. But more importantly, follow this list of 10 things not to do in Bolivia. Part 2. Know before you go. Number 6. Don't get distracted by sprayed water. Travel advisories also warn about criminals who use water to distract their targets. The fluid is sprayed on the victim's neck to get them flustered. Then the criminal snatches their bag and runs off. Crooks have also been known to spray a substance on the tourists' bags, offer to repair the fabric, and then take off running. 7. Don't get sick, stay hydrated. If you fly into El Alto Airport, you'll be greeted by an altitude of 30,000 feet above sea level. The signs of altitude sickness include shortness of breath, dehydration, and headaches. So stay hydrated or use the locals' cure of chewing on a ball of coca. 8. Don't visit the bad regions. Coronilla Hill, Coroico and the Caranavi are home to many of Bolivia's organized crime units. Tourists who venture into these places in the Yungas region have been the victims of carjackings and kidnappings. 9. Don't stick to your diet. The locals love to eat and many of them have a sweet tooth. Every street corner has a vendor selling cups of jello topped with whipped cream, empanadas covered in powdered sugar, and cups of sugary juice. Almost every meal consists of some form of potato, and Coca-Cola is the locals' favorite beverage of choice. 10. Don't steal the natives' souls. In Bolivia, it's not only rude to take a photo of a stranger without asking, but it goes against their beliefs. Bolivians will turn away from having their picture taken because they believe the camera can steal their soul. Where do you want to know what not to do in next? Comment below.
All right. Any thoughts on what we just saw there?
Well, I have a question from part 1.
Yep.
Did they really say don't put the toilet paper in the commode? Put it in
Yeah,
the
isn't that
trash
weird?
can?
I didn't do it when I was there. I mean, I put it in the commode. I had never
Oh.
done it before.
System is real. It's not like our system here. So it doesn't take care of a lot of kind of waste that we take for granted here in our sewer system. But I do say too, Lou, that having your own toilet paper is important.
Yeah, that if I went there now, I'd have a roll. All right. Well, I thought there were some pretty good tips in there. Really good tips. Okay, so we're through the tips section of our presentation. I mentioned I wanted to share a little bit with you about Evo Morales. He's such a unique character coming out of such a harsh environment. So let me play this video, and then after that, we're going to go straight away to the trivia. So here we go.
How did Bolivia go from its first indigenous president to being led by a right-wing Christian fundamentalist? Is this a coup or democracy being saved? We're going to look at the rise and fall of Evo Morales and what Bolivia's future might look like. First, let's talk about how we got here. In the 16th century, Spain colonized the country now known as Bolivia. They forced the indigenous population to mine valuable metals like silver to enrich the Spanish Empire, while the Catholic Church set up missions to convert these communities. Even after independence, Bolivia was still controlled by a minority elite that tended to identify as European, and Catholicism remained the protected religion of the state. The ruling class still looked down on the indigenous people and viewed them as backwards, keeping them socially and economically marginalized. While some social mobility became possible in the mid-20th century, change accelerated in the 1980s. After some government-owned mines were sold off or shut down, many miners lost their jobs. Here's the thing to remember. The miners were known for their labor organizing, and some took those talents with them to their next jobs, farming the coca leaf. It's a symbol of Bolivia and a part of many indigenous traditions. It's also the raw ingredient in cocaine.
The coca and the cocaine production was allowed to counterbalance the crisis of the Bolivian economy.
If you know anything about South America in the 80s, you'll know that this was the height of the US war on drugs.
In July this year, Bolivia's President Victor Paz Estensoro agreed to mount a joint anti-drugs operation with the United States. The campaign was dubbed Blast Furnace by the Americans, who sent in 170 troops to work with the local police.
The Coca Growers Union became a major political force. Farmers, including a young Evo Morales, fought back with hunger strikes and road blockades. Morales became the leader of the union and was elected to Bolivia's National Congress in 1997. A year later, he helped found the Movimiento al Socialismo Party, or MAS. MAS was an alliance of unions, farmers, indigenous organizations, and leftist intellectuals. It surprised a lot of people by coming second in the 2002 elections. The party's support grew over the next few years during protests against the sale of Bolivia's national gas company to U.S. corporations. This led to the resignation of the president in 2005, and MAS won the next elections. For the first time, Bolivia had an indigenous president. Morales' socialist policies grew Bolivia's economy while also reducing inequality. While his closeness to leaders in Cuba and Venezuela made the US uneasy, even the World Bank conceded that Bolivia's economic progress was extraordinary. Between 2006 and 2018, Bolivia's extreme poverty was nearly cut in half, partially thanks to a boom in the price of natural resources that funded policies like a cash transfer program for children, the elderly, and pregnant women.
El primer presidente que yo veo desde mi niñez, que es un presidente Aymara, que realmente está haciendo mucho por el campo y por la humanidad, por todos, no solo por el campo.
In 2009, a new constitution set aside seats in Congress for indigenous groups. It also made Bolivia a secular rather than a Catholic state and recognized the country's 36 indigenous nations.
Those people felt that the state was with them for the first time in their history, you know, and I think that this is important in terms of national or state building and national identity.
It also set presidential term limits to 2 consecutive terms. Pay attention to that. It's going to be important soon. Naturally, not everyone was happy with these changes. Land-owning families and the business elite, who feared losing power and privilege, opposed Morales' plans for the constitution as soon as they were announced. A few years later, Morales began facing opposition from some of his own base as well. In 2011, his government proposed a highway that would run through a protected rainforest. Indigenous groups protested by marching to La Paz, the capital. Morales ended up canceling the plan, but brought it back in 2017. Morales had also promised to shift the economy away from resource extraction and towards more sustainable forms of development. But he never actually followed through. Later on, his government even began offering pardons for illegal deforestation in the Amazon.
There was a clear mandate on the continuation, on following on this extractive strategy, because they needed the money in the short term in order to redistribute this money to the population.
Now, remember when we said the new constitution limited presidents to serving only 2 consecutive terms? Well, as Morales neared the end of his second term in 2013, he argued that he could actually run a third time. He justified it by saying his first term had been under the old constitution, so he was eligible for a second term under the new one. The Constitutional Court agreed, and so did the voters. Morales coasted to a third term in office. But that wasn't enough. In 2016, Morales proposed a constitutional amendment that would strip away the term limits altogether. This time, voters didn't agree. Morales lost a referendum on the amendment, but the court, which opponents said was packed with supporters of Morales, struck down the term limits anyway. In plain English, they ruled that term limits restrict the rights of voters to choose their candidates as many times as they want, and the rights of politicians to run for office. By the time of the 2019 elections, Morales had been president for 13 years. Would Bolivia give him a 4th term? As results started coming in, it seemed like Morales wasn't going to win outright. It looked like there would be a runoff between him and Carlos Mesa, the second-place candidate. But then, preliminary results stopped coming in for 24 hours. When they resumed, Morales had enough votes to avoid that runoff. The opposition began protesting in different parts of the country, alleging there was election fraud. Morales asked the Organization of American States to audit the election results and said he would abide by the OAS's recommendations. On November the 10th, the OAS said the election had, quote, irregularities. Morales agreed to repeat the election, but Bolivia never got that far.
Sugerimos al presidente del Estado que renuncie a su mandato presidencial, permitiendo la pacificación y el mantenimiento de la estabilidad por el bien de nuestra Bolivia.
The military's suggestion that he resign immediately before he did so was in direct violation of the Bolivian Constitution, which does not allow them to express any opinion and forces them to always obey the dictates of the civilian government.
After resigning, Morales fled to Mexico, and a right-wing senator called Janine Áñez took over as president, with the Constitutional Court backing her claim.
She had not been one of the most prominent members of the Senate, but she had already received criticism for her racist tweets, for her anti-abortion stance, for her strong, highly conservative opinions.
Agnes also waved a large Bible as she was sworn into office in a callback to Bolivia's past as a Catholic state. Agnes gave the military immunity from prosecution. Since the election, dozens have been killed and hundreds injured. Agnes's unelected government has also threatened to arrest members of MAS. Some security forces have ripped off indigenous flags from their uniforms. 2 weeks after Morales was forced out, Agnes passed a law to hold new elections. The interim government says it will allow MAS to run a candidate, but not Morales. They've called the former president a terrorist and said he'll be arrested if he returns to Bolivia. While Morales has a complicated legacy, it's undeniable that Bolivia, and especially its indigenous people, made a lot of progress during his time in office. Now, this progress and Bolivian democracy hangs in the balance.
Well, I thought that was really interesting. Any thoughts from anybody? And I'm going to have to go to trivia mighty quick. So brew on that, okay? There's a lot of incredible injustice, wasn't there, before Morales took office toward the indigenous people? It was
Thank
great
you
to
for
see.
that last video, Lou. That was quite interesting to see that history.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Well, now we're going to get to one of our favorite parts of the presentation. Hopefully you can't see it. I got to.
While Lou pulls up his trivia, again, thank you all so much for coming on to today's session. Let's practice raising our hands. That's how you all will let us know if you would like to answer one of Lou's questions to be in the running for a prize today. So can everyone in Zoom hit more at the top right and then tap raise hand? Okay, more than raise hand. So that way, if you would like to answer, again, one of Lou's questions, and you get it right, you'll be in the running for a prize today. Thank you. So far, we have 8 hands up. Really appreciate that. And again, don't forget to raise your hand if you'd like to answer one of Lou's questions. You all can lower your hands by hitting lower at the bottom. But again, thank you all so much for coming on to today's session. And there you go, Lou. Let's go ahead and get started with the trivia.
All right. So I'm going to have to move quick because there's a lot of questions here today. First question is, what famous duo met their deaths in Bolivia? Oh, Tom. I'll let you do this part. Alex, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas. You got to hit unmute. What is your answer?
The Sundance Kid. And I
And
forget the other one. Oh Lord, Sundance Kid and the guy, Robert Redford, and God, I can't think. But I know it was the Sundance, Paul Newman, yeah. The Sundance Kid.
You gotta get both, though. You gotta get both.
Yeah.
Was it Che Guevara? I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you want to hear from another person, Lou?
Sure, yeah. You gotta get both. You got
Okay.
one of them.
Brenda, what is your answer?
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
There you go. Good job.
Good job, Brenda. Thank you so much.
All right. Almost got it, Tom. All right, here we go. We got to go to the next one quickly because we got a lot of questions. What natural land feature in Bolivia is the largest in the world? They actually mentioned it a few times in the videos.
Okay, Mr. Hero, what is your answer?
The Andes Mountains. Another lake, Titicaca Lake.
Well, actually, this one's a land feature. So I gotta narrow it down a little bit. But Hero, good guesses. They mentioned it a couple times. Alex, you want to name who's the next?
Yes. I was making sure we were in order. Thelma, what is your answer?
I can't say it in what their language was, the salt, something like the salt land. It wasn't nothing but salt there.
Yes, we'll give you that one. The
Yeah,
Solar,
there you go.
the
That's it.
world's largest
Oh,
salt flat. Very
Yeah.
good.
Uh-huh.
Very
yeah,
good.
thank you. Good
All
job.
right, you got the name there, Alex. We're gonna go to the next because I'm gonna run out of time.
Go ahead.
Here we go. Okay, now you all should know this one. Name the highest administrative city in the world. You probably go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Miss Thelma. Let's see if we can hear from someone else. But we really appreciate your participation. Name the highest administrative city in the world.
And highest means altitude. The highest altitude administrative city in the world.
Okay, Geraldine, what is your answer?
Guessing, was it La Paz?
Yes, yes. El Alto, which is part of La Paz. Yes.
Good job, Geraldine.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So far, we have Brenda, Thelma, and Miss Geraldine in the running for a prize today. Thank you so much.
Okay, next question. What do Bolivians hang in their homes for good luck and protection? I left the word homes out. Sorry. What do
And that was
Bolivians
so
hang
fast.
in their homes for good luck and protection?
You raised your hand before you finished, Anne. What do you have an answer for this question?
I think it's effigies.
What is it?
Effigies, EFFIGIES.
What is an effigy? I don't know what that is.
It's a hanging it says it's a hanging article that's hung. I knew what the name was, but I wasn't sure if that was what you were looking for. But it was that Bolivians hang in their homes for good luck and protection are effigies, and they're ornaments or sort of type things that they hang. So
okay,
that's
I think you're in the right direction. I just need to know what kind of ornaments they hang for good luck and protection.
Okay.
But you're close. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to respond? Again, I appreciate you so much, Ms. Geraldine. Let's see if we can hear from someone who hasn't come up yet, but thank you so much.
I tell you what, I'll count down from 5, and if we don't get an answer, we're going to give it to okay.
Brenda? Brenda Thompson, thank you. What is your answer?
Pepper spray?
What is it?
Pepper spray.
Ms. Brenda said pepper spray.
Pepper spray? No, that's not what I think about. I want to give it to whoever said effigies because this is an effigy, but this type of effigy. You ready? Skulls. They hang human skulls in their houses for good luck.
Oh, awesome. You want to give that to Anne?
Yeah, because it is a form of effigy.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne. Good job. You were the closest. Appreciate that.
They have a name for it. It starts with an N, a Nineveh or something like that. I didn't write the name down. A Nineveh. They hang skulls up. All right. Next question. What do the colors of the Bolivian flag represent? There's 3 colors to the flag. Need to know what those 3 colors represent.
Oh, Lou, it's those are called natitas. They have a Dia de las Natitas, the day of the skull.
That's it. Good job, Alex.
If you would like to answer, what do the colors of the Bolivian flag represent? Please raise your hand in Zoom. That's a good question, Lou. Wow.
Now this one should be very Googleable, I would think. Very Googleable.
Again, thank you. So keep your hand up, Brenda. We'll see if someone else answers and see if we can hear from you. Anyone else would like to answer? Okay. Thank you. Miss Hill, what is your answer? You gotta hit unmute in the middle, okay, Miss Hill?
Good evening. How y'all doing today?
Okay.
I believe the red stand for braver for the shoulders, the shoulders, the soldiers. Red.
And then what else? There's two more colors.
Yellow stands. Green stand for like for fertilities. You know the fertilities and like I guess the like when you grow stuff. When you grow stuff on the land on the fertilize.
Okay. How about the other color?
Yellow deal with minerals. I
Well,
guess
yeah,
deal with like
I think you got it. I think you got it.
Oh,
You
she
got
did.
it.
Good job, Miss Hill.
Brave soldier,
Got
green
it.
for fertility, and yellow for the minerals. Good job.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Miss
That's
Hill,
what we
that's
had in
good.
the movie. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go to the next one because we got a lot of questions.
Wow.
Name the world record black and white geological features in this picture.
So that middle portion on the country lines and then that white portion down at the bottom, right?
Yeah, so one here and one here.
So
And
you need both, right?
Yeah, what you got to get both.
Mr. Harold, thank you. What is your answers?
Is there another hand up before mine?
No, you're good.
Well, the white part is the mountains, the Indian, and the dark part is the Lake Tikachua, something like that.
Oh, you're sort of close on both, but we got it. We got to keep going, get more answers, but you're sort of close.
Okay, thank you. Any other takers? It's a great question, Lou. This is like $1,000 in Jeopardy.
This right here, what is this and what is this?
Okay, Mr. Thomas, what are your answers?
I believe it's Lake Titicaca and the largest salt land area.
Yes, that's not mountain snow. Those are the salt flats, the
Salt
largest
flats,
in the
sorry.
world. Yep, those are the salt flats. And there's
Lake
actually a third
Titicaca.
one, a third largest in the world, which is this ice cap right here, which is interesting. I'm not so sure I believe that one though. Home to the largest world's highest navigable lake, Lake Titicaca, over 12,000 feet tall, high. And then the world's largest salt flat, we already talked about that. That was awful. It was huge on the map. And then it says it's the highest extreme altitude ice field, which I'm not so sure about that. Because Alaska's got some pretty big ice fields that are high altitude. So I don't know about that fact. All right. I think this is the last one. Name this dish.
Oh, Mr. Thomas got the last one, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good job, Mr. Thomas. Thank you so much. Name that dish, you all. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Name that dish. Okay. Hi, Miss Loretta. Hope you're well. What is your answer? You gotta hit there you go.
Empanada.
You know, you might be right. I'm afraid to click it because I forgot what the name was. Does everybody agree with that? I forgot the name now. Okay, I'm gonna click it. If you're wrong, I can't give it to you. But if you're right, it's yours. Unfortunately, does anybody want to have a backup guess?
Thank you for putting up your hand out, Miss Loretta. Any other takers?
Any backup guess? It could be an empanada. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Hill. Let's see if we can hear from someone else. Thank you. That hasn't gotten correct yet. Thank you so much.
One more guess.
Anybody else that hasn't?
Oh, it's actually now I remember it. It's actually not. It's not an empanada. It's actually a form of empanada, but it's not that's not the name I'm looking for.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Miss Laura. Miss, we'll see. We'll see if we'll see if Miss Cassandra gets it. Cassandra,
Is it? Would it be called Aurora? Quora?
No, that's not the name I'm looking for. Let's do one more. We're going to run out of time here. Oh my God, we're way over time. I'm going to do it right now. Because it's a form of empanada, we're going to give it to the first guesser here. You ready? Here we go. It's a saltina.
Oh yeah, saltiña.
It's a version of an empanada. You see that? So we got to give it to the first guesser there.
Thank you so much, Miss Loretta. Really appreciate that. And for everyone for responding to today's questions.
Sorry, I ran over, Alex. I had a lot of questions today.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Oh no, I got another one. Oh no.
Oh, that's okay, Lou. I have to queue it up anyway, so that's fine. Let's.
All right. What's the name of this hat, and why do they wear it? Who's Alex? Can you say who answered? Or are you in the middle of figuring it out?
No, please re-raise your hand if you would like to answer this question. What kind of hat is this and why do they wear it?
You see women all over Bolivia wearing this. The weirdest thing. It's like, why are you wearing these kind of European hats that are too small for you? It is but who am I to judge, right? Is it Burnett?
Okay, yes. Ms. Burnett, what is your answer?
A bowler hat?
Yes. Bowler hat. So some of these hats cost up to $1,000. It's a real status symbol kind of a thing. And this is worth a story all into itself. You know, where in the world did this tradition come from? And it has quite a story behind it, which is way over the time that I have, and I don't even know it. It's so complicated, but it had to do with the first contact of the Spaniards to the indigenous peoples and what the indigenous peoples thought of the hats that they wore, and then how they sort of mutated those hats. And the whole thing is a wild story. But they wear them all over the place. All right, that is it, Alex. Sorry I ran so far over. It's all yours.
It's okay, Lou. Thank you all so much for coming on. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 trivia answers, 8 correct answers out of 8. So thank you all so much for pulling through. And now we will do our wheel where one of you all will again win a prize for today's session. So again, we have Miss Brenda, Miss Thelma, Miss Geraldine, Miss Ann, Miss Brenda Hill, Mr. Thomas, Miss Loretta, and Miss Burnett, and they're running for a prize today. So let's see who wins this edition of the Lunch Club. Let's see. Wow, that was really close. Our winner is
don't breathe it in the wheel. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Mr. Thomas. You won a pair of headphones today for your iPad. Thank you so much for coming on.
Very good. Thank you.
No problem. You have a great rest of your day.
Will do.
And well, thank you all so much for coming on to today's session. I will see you all at 1:30 p.m. for our module on Zoom, but let's all thank Lou for such an interesting session today. Have a great weekend.
It's interesting, Lou.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Have a good weekend. Stay
safe. Thanks, everybody.
Beautiful country, Lou.
Bye, all.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Have a good day. See you all at 1:30, everybody.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, that was fun.
You're around like a donut.